Oh, guys, I finished another spell, by the way.
Oh, wonderful. Which one were you learning, John?
Attack, poison, and disease. Now
You
I'm
know,
gonna learn silence. Learning spells is actually a really weird thing.
in what respect, John?
You just read a piece of paper and really understand it, and then follow an instruction, cast it.
Brandon, you know that from being able to craft scrolls and being able to cast magic and learning a lot more about magic, that when you're casting it, you're actually creating shapes out of the magic from within you.
Would Brandon have any concept of the weave at this point?
Yeah.
Brandon.
Say now, camera, you understand the concept.
Okay, so Brandon will say, well, as I understand it, John, basically what you're doing is it isn't just the knowledge. You know, like the gestures that you do, or the components, or the verbal, all of these things are elements of manipulating the weave, which is essentially the magic force that is surrounding us. Like the weave was very damaged on Blante's world, for example, so that's why magic was harder to cast there. I suppose really it's a little bit like programming. You're manipulating it in a way to give it instructions in order to achieve a desired effect. Does that make general sense?
It makes sense in a very different way. When I look at it from my perspective, how do I explain? Well, you call it a weave, and I just see it as a sort of energy or chi that we manipulate through different meanings. Give that energy a certain form based on our abilities.
Both interpretations are more or less correct, it's just a different way of explaining. I think like anyone studying magic formally would probably refer to that as ease of reference, just so we know that we're talking about the same thing. But conceptually, it's more or less the same.
And that would explain why our world is a low magic world, because we cannot interact with the weave as well as we think.
Callum once mentioned that magic used to be a lot more abundant in our world, so I can only assume that the weave got... Oh crap, do you think that the weave is anything to do with the ozone layer?
Yes and no. I think maybe people lost their ability to react with the weave, since we have been so detached from ourselves and the energy around us. Energy in any form, whether we call it nature, cosmos, what spiritual beliefs. I think the majority of people are stuck in a very selfish and egocentric, materialistic, worldly way of living. They might have lost their ability to see beyond just their being.
Yeah, I've had to abandon some of my preconceptions when learning magic just because, I mean, there are elements of what you would deem science in there. You do have to think about things quite differently. Working on that ring for David just brought my knowledge on quite a lot.
Science and magic don't collide with each other. I think science is just a way to explain, and
to be fair, David
so
actually
far
said more or less the same thing, that magic is just science that isn't fully understood yet.
As we learn, we see there is logic to even magic. It follows certain rules we didn't know about, but they are there.
Yeah, definitely, and as I've come to understand this more, I'm hoping that I can use this knowledge to eventually make unique things, like rather than following pre-existing patterns, but just from what I've studied so far, yeah, I've got a long way to go. But it's exciting.
I was thinking something, and you have more knowledge about it than me. You know, everything is made up out of matter.
For all intents and purposes, yeah.
But you also have like dark matter and dark energy, which is not very observable, but is the majority of our universe.
Yeah.
We travel through the astral, which is the majority between the places we visit.
So you're saying that the astral is akin to dark matter?
Yeah, which makes sense. So far, everything that we find in the astral space sucks energy or matter. The people from the dead plane, the worms, even knowledge kinda is the same thing. It just leaves nothing behind. And maybe there's a weird correlation.
Maybe. I mean, probably the best way to approach magic, especially just given that, as I said, I've had to abandon some preconceptions. I'm actually trying to take a step back and just learn it without assuming connections where they may or may not exist. I found that since I've started doing that, it's been easier for me to make progress. I think once I know more and I've actually read stuff, absolutely, I'd love to theorize. And, you know, from a logical standpoint, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. But I've learned basically that I know nothing. And
the more you learn, the more you know.
Yeah.
Nothing. What was something along those lines?
Pretty much.
Along this journey, we're getting a lot of weird questions and answers. And I thought maybe the knowledge we now have, we can use to fill in the gaps we used to have.
I basically want to be in a position, John, where I don't just have to use my own reasoning to make theories. I want them to be based in something more concrete. Like being able to explain like how magic is cast. That's not something I would have been able to do even a week ago. But now I can with some degree of confidence.
Studying the library of your not help your magic learning.
I mean, it'd be reading the stuff in there, John, even if I could travel. I mean, when I traveled there last time, I was just a disembodied spirit. Danabel said that was something to do with my soul being cursed, but I think it was also to do with David not being strong enough at the time, but I'd rather not go there again uninvited. That was an experiment which I didn't think entirely through, but
Do you also think your ability to give and take magic is a very minuscule version of controlling such dark and normal matter or energy?
I mean, it's something highly unusual. I mean, it was said as much by Lante. It would normally require lots of magical material to do that, and it does seem I'm interacting with forces that people shouldn't ordinarily be able to. I mean, some of that, well, is almost definitely due to my connection with Beartooth, but I actually was thinking about that. I once saw Beartooth, like, the first time I really had a vision of his past, had the ability to create a portal to move between worlds. So I do wonder if I continue to manifest his abilities, if I will eventually be able to do that. That is part of the reason why I asked you for a few extra magic materials, because I've got 500 for working on the bag of tricks. I'm going to get a couple more comprehend languages glasses. If we're going to go into a situation where I'm going to be using a lot of spells, it might not be a bad idea to test draining magic out just to get more practice with it. See how practical it is in a real world situation.
Maybe you could also try a few things with the astral space when we travel through it to see how it reacts on you. If there's something to pull. And if you cannot pull energy, it shows that there's maybe a lack of energy in the astral space.
We need astral energy for one of the crystals for Devlin's transdimensional looking glass, so it might be worth me trying it just for that purpose.
That it's kind of cool, because if astral energy is the same as dark energy or dark matter, our telescopes can't look past it or through it. That's why we see the big black blobs. But if you can capture its essence and use it as a telescope, it allows you to maybe look through it. Very minimalized knowledge I have.
You know, I don't know why you just made me think of this, John, but I wonder if I can do something that's similar to... You know in Avatar The Last Airbender when Iroh teaches Zuko how to redirect lightning?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if a spell was fired at me, if I could redirect that energy somewhere else. I'm basically taking magic into myself and pushing it out. I mean, it's with a magic item, so it might not work.
The possibility might be there because in its very basic form, you can take and give. Is that not the same as redirecting it if you do it fluidly? David, do you have any ideas on our theories?
David might be blocking us out, John. That's typically what happens when we talk like this for a while.
That is
Anyone else?
I think the jump saying that astral energy is dark energy or dark matter, I think the jump is a bit too large without any sustainable evidence.
Just a theory. It's just the comparison of how we observe the in-between spaces in...
As I said to you earlier, like, I'm kind of having to challenge a lot of my pre-existing notions of how reality works, so... I'm kind of just open to the possibility of, you know, something might being related, but I'm just not really putting much stock in the discussion until I've got something a little bit more concrete to support it. But it's still an interesting discussion.
The conversation I had with Devlin about universes?
No. When did you have a conversation with Devlin?
Yesterday I just went to the attic and checked in on him. Arabellum, Caramel, and Dominguez was in our universe, so it was somewhere beyond our observation.
Observable
beyond the universe where, yes, so there is someone out there, but Bellamar was really somewhere else, like not part of our universe. That's the only time we dipped out of our universe.
I guess
so
it makes sense with the sun.
Two universes. Well, yes and no, because there are planets that travel around their sun differently or don't turn on their own axis, so they always see the sun.
I was referring to the color of the sun.
Ah, since it was a red sun. There are red stars in our universe, though, red dwarfs.
But it's nice to have confirmation from Devlin that that's the only time we've been in a different universe. Did you learn anything else of interest?
That's kind of it, actually.
It's interesting to know that, well, Caramel is in the same universe as Earth, so it's fascinating, really, what is just kind of beyond our observation.
It's kind of cool, actually, to really realize we went out of our universe to have it answered like that.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
He also said, like, oh, centipedes.
Well, what about the centipedes?
They attacked every single time, and he thinks they won the shop because the shop has the ability to travel everywhere, basically, and they maybe won that.
That makes sense, given that the centipedes made inroads into your gods' respective realms. I guess, given that Devlin hasn't seen these things appear anywhere else, and the portal's always open on Domingus, I guess it makes sense that they're looking for other ways to get to other places if, well, that legend you mentioned to us is accurate, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is his favorite world, by the way.
Why?
He finds it the most peaceful out of them, I think. And he doesn't know how far we have traveled. I asked him, and it's kind of, he stopped fucking measuring it because I feel like it's unmeasurable at this point.
It always seems to take us roughly the same amount of time to reach any given destination, so... Again, this is it. It's like where magic is concerned, maybe distance isn't as much of a factor as we think it is. I mean, like, for example, like if Devlin wants to move the shop to another world, or if he wants to move it just a little bit further down the road, it still takes the same amount of energy in order to do so. So maybe the distance traveled, regardless of how far it is always the same period of time, or something similar.
Perhaps. Where does the magic come from? The weave, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And how is our soul connected to the weave? Do we have a connection between our soul and the weave?
As I understand it, there are people who just have a natural affinity for it. People like Ante who are able to achieve that through study, or people like me, sorcerers, who have an inborn talent, mostly from bloodline or from some sort of supernatural connection. And then there's people like you and David who get your powers from gods, and they act as a conduit, I believe, in order to enable you guys to interact with the weave. I mean, I think David's a little bit different because it's some parts Danavel, but also some parts the natural talent that is cultivated by them. Like, we all interact with the weave in different ways, but we are all effectively drawing upon the same source, and essentially as we cast magic, the weave is damaged, but then is repaired afterwards. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, John, but the item in which Devlin did our contracts is called the Tome of Potential, and a lot of the rituals he knows is derived from that. I mean, casting magic by ritual. Would Brandon know much about casting rituals by magic and how that works in low magic worlds, Pete? Or is that beyond him still at this point?
I don't think you know how to ritual cast, do you?
Not about ritual casting, but like the theory behind how it can be done.
I'm going to say it's probably going to be covered briefly, but only really briefly.
Okay, in that case, Brandon would say, I can't say that I know much about rituals. I mean, it must interact with the weave somehow. I mean, at a guess, maybe, like, for example, Callum's Dreamcatcher and any other magic items he has, maybe they kind of have to draw power, but it's where that initial power comes from, because I mean, effectively you're needing to draw magic from another power source if you haven't really got much in the weave, but admittedly that's a bit beyond me. I've not really studied it, and I've not done any projects where I've really needed to learn the concept, so anything I say beyond that is just frankly guesswork, which I am trying to avoid as I'm learning more.
The more I really understand that I know so little about it all.
I mean, frankly, John, you and me both, and I'm the one been studying it, but I'm interested to learn more. I'm also just content to be patient with it. The answers, at least hopefully a lot of them, will come with time, which will give rise likely to more questions. But
my grandmother always said, if there's a question, somewhere there is an answer somewhere.
Yeah, and there'll be an answer to each of our problems. It's just a matter of when and where we'll find it. But anyway, I'm going to ask at this point, is this conversation, when's this taking place? Is this after 1 o'clock?
Yeah, I'd say so.
So how long do you think this has taken? Be 45 minutes?
Yeah, sure. And you get 15 minutes of travel before your rest.
Okay. What's David doing in this time? Annoyed
Reading.
about. Okay, continuing to read. Okay. Current time is.
Say 2 o'clock.
This is the point where we're resting, right?
Yes.
Okay, how long are we resting for? I don't remember how long we rested Fred for last time.
We can
If I
also
had to
just say
hazard a
good.
guess, I would have said an hour.
We can say an hour.
Right, okay, so during the hour of rest, I think Brandon is going to do more fireball study. How about everyone else?
Can you read?
Read.
So you're continuing to read Alchemy Genius, John continuing to read Silence?
Yes.
Does anything happen during the Respite, or does time pass without incident?
It's in the thing.
Yeah, we're probably sitting in the car, I imagine. Unless there's a reason to leave it.
Over the course of your rest, nothing of note occurs.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to say that during the rest as well, Brandon would say to Edgar, do you want to have a fly around, see if you can find any interesting berries and the like?
Yeah, sure. So you can
Think.
communicate whilst you're within 100 feet to each other. Don't know if there's a limit otherwise. Don't
Of how
think so.
far the familiar can go away from me, I don't know if there is.
I believe there is no limit to how far it can get away from you. You can only communicate it if it's within 1 mile. But you can still continue to see through it, but then it'll just act on its own.
I think Brandon would say to return within the hour as well before it goes.
Understood, Master. In which case, it flies away and starts exploring.
Oh, where's it going?
Oh, Edgar is just going to look for some berries and other things to munch on.
Mother, would you like me to follow it? I don't trust it, Mother.
I look over my shoulder. Is he there? He is not there, right?
He's there.
Didn't even fucking summon him. Why is he there? When did he appear?
Just appeared a moment ago, just hovering over your shoulder.
By the way, I just dragged Edgar onto the map.
See when it's small? Oh, yeah.
Got myself a little bird.
So, you have a rather calm and relaxed hour, and maybe 10 minutes before then, he returns. Settles down in your head, Brandon.
Brandon will ask upon Edgar returning. So, did you find anything interesting?
I found many of the birds. Some of them chased me for a while. I found some rather prickly berries. I left them alone.
Nothing else of interest in terms of things you'd like to eat?
Nothing in particular, no.
Perhaps we can look in a different sort of environment. I mean, did you actually go near any of the forests? Or did you just stay more or less around here?
I stayed more or less around here.
Perhaps try the forests when we're near some. I mean, we'll probably be going out that way at some point in the near future. We're going towards the mountains, pointing to our destination over there for today. And also there's going to be plenty of things to eat back at the shop. Actually, I wanted to just ask you, is there anything else that you particularly want just beyond food?
I do enjoy poetry. Do you know poetry?
That's actually kind of funny. I actually named you after a poet from my own world called Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh,
Funny coincidence, that.
something that was meant to be.
Yeah, I suppose.
Unlucky me.
But you do like poetry, don't you?
That I do, yes.
Come to think of it, I do remember that there was a poem by Edgar Allan Poe called The Raven.
Was it about them being glorious?
I do have a few books on my phone. Let me just see if I can find... I've got like a compilation somewhere. I do have an excerpt. Do you want me to read it to you?
Yes.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as some one gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. Distinctly I remember it was in bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the door. Eagerly I wished for the morrow. Vainly had I sought to borrow from my books a crease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So what now, to still the beating of my heart? I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. That it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating them no longer. Sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact that I was napping and so gently you came rapping and so faintly came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more.
I appreciate it. A slice of madness.
Edgar Allan Poe isn't a particularly happy man, but there is beauty in poetry and in darkness sometimes.
That we agree.
Perhaps I can read you some poetry another time, or perhaps try to come up with some myself. I mean, maybe I should stick to someone who actually knows what they are doing, but I suppose reading poems after your namesake would make sense. After Brandon does that, he will just sit with Edgar, continue reading until the rest ends.
Okay. So, the rest concludes, and you may once again move on your merry way.